Hey everyone, welcome back to another landscape photo series. Today we're going to talk about something very important, and this is by far, in my opinion, one of the most critical pieces of gear for getting sharp photos, details in those shots, especially within landscape photography, and that is going to be, boom, your tripod. Why is a tripod so important? Is because sometimes we were just talking about neutral density filters, right? If you're going to use a long exposure, you can't hold your camera for 30 seconds because you're going to get motion blur and you're not going to have a photo, right? So, why use a tripod? Well, again, the main reason is to avoid camera shake, especially when you're shooting slow shutter speeds. Even the slightest movement can blur your images. A lot of people go cheap on tripods. The tripod that I'm using, specifically this guy right here, this is a ProMaster XC-M 528. This is a carbon fiber tripod. It's about 300 bucks, and this is probably a good bang for your buck. Why? Because one, you get really good height, but two, let's say it's windy out. One of my favorite things is this little hook right here. This little hook, I can attach a sandbag or my water bottle or my backpack to help weigh that down to help prevent motion blur. The head expands up to, and it gets pretty tall when it's fully extended. It's lightweight, it's easy to travel with, and it's one of my favorite things. Now, when you're setting up your tripod, especially what I love about this one is it's got the bubble, so you want to make sure it's level and you want to make sure it is stable. You want to extend the thicker section of the legs first, especially if it's windy. You can hang, again, weights from the bottom or the center of the column to give it extra stability. And trust me, you don't want your tripod wobbling when you're trying to take that perfect shot, because again, little movements will mess up the photo, especially if you're doing long exposures, or when you get in the Photoshop, let's say you take 4 photos that you're going to put together, they may be off 1 or 2 pixels, and that's okay. You can line them up in Photoshop. You can go in, you can crop those, 1 or 2 or 4 pixels off top and bottom, and you'll be good to go, right? So, but anywho, we're getting off a tangent. Next, you want to adjust the height of the tripod to keep the tripod at eye level. Now, granted, these aren't like you have to do kind of things. These are just what I do. So first, I set up my tripod and I make sure that it's level. Right. Once my tripod is level, I'm going to adjust the height, right? So I already have in my mind what direction I'm planning on shooting. Am I going to low? Am I going to high? Am I looking up? Am I looking down? Right? Am I shooting, landscape? Is there a fence in front of me? Do I need to, adjust? These are all things that are coming into my mind, right? And, here's another pro tip. One of the things that I recommend investing in is a remote shutter or using a 2-second timer on your camera. This ensures you don't accidentally shake your tripod or your camera when you press that shutter button. Every press of that button can cause minor vibration that can affect the sharpness of your photo. For example, I used to have a aluminum tripod, and for the longest time I was struggling because my photos would be off by a few pixels, and especially when I was shooting astro. And what I found out is even though it could be a calm, cool night, beautiful sky, clear as can be, when I was shooting up at Mount Rainier, I noticed I was off and I was trying to figure it out, and I did a lot of digging, and I come to find out, if you are using aluminum, and this is important, mark this, come back, rewatch it. If you are using aluminum for astrophotography and your camera, takes the photo, rest, takes the photo, rest. So the way I shoot astro, 30-second intervals, I don't like doing longer than that. We'll talk about that when we get to astro. But when you're taking, 500-600 photos and then you stack that, what happens with aluminum is there's called micro shakes. And what happens is even though your tripod is sturdy, your camera, when it opens and closes to take that photo, there's micro vibrations that go down the leg on all three. And that especially if you're using aluminum, will go all the way down. And that's what is going to create those off by 1 or 2 or more pixels. But with a carbon fiber, you don't get that. The carbon fiber actually absorbs some of that vibration, and so when it goes down, it doesn't affect the camera. Okay, tripods are especially helpful when you're shooting in low light, like during sunrise and sunset, or blue hour, gold hour, astro hour, astronomical hour, um, especially when you need to get a low shutter speed to let in more light. They're also perfect for long exposures, like capturing smooth waterfalls, clouds, light trails, trains, moving cars, or if you're trying to do a sweeping effect, right? That's a lot of fun, where you set your camera up on a tripod, everything's level, and then you set it to a low shutter speed, and again, motion, you're creating motion. And let's say a car is driving this way, you're going to take your camera and follow it, right? So you're going to whip your camera with it, which is a good way to streak, but the car is in focus, okay? So again, using a tripod seems like an extra step, but it is worth it for those extra sharp, professional looking landscape photo shots. And once you start using it, you'll notice a difference right away. And again, you don't want to go to Walmart and buy a cheap $15 one. If you're going to buy a good camera, you don't want to go buy a cheap tripod holding up, a $2,000 camera. Or let's say you are doing professional. Let's say, you go out and you get a phase 1 camera, right? That's a $50,000 camera, just body alone, right? You're not going to go to Walmart and buy a $15 tripod to hold up a $50,000 camera, right? That's like taking a Lambo down to, Jiffy Lube. You just don't do that, okay? But that's it for today on tripods. Hopefully you got some useful tips out of tripods, and hopefully you get better landscape shots. If you want me to see what you're doing, please let me know, and I would love to see it. And thanks for watching. If you find these tips to be helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome videos. I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys have a good day.